So we put together this panel to talk about makerspaces as a kind of up-and-coming entity in different communities, how they can help artists in the community, how they can help the community at large. So we are excited to have Bevan Weissman here, who is affiliated with several makerspaces, but particularly the Philadelphia Sculpture Gym in Philadelphia, and Pat. So I'm going to introduce them briefly. They're each going to give you a little presentation on their experience with makerspaces, and then we'll open it up for questions after that. So first is Bevan Weissman. As I said, he's co-founder of New American Public Art, a company focused on placemaking, interactive public experience, and making spaces creative. Part futurist, part transcendentalist. He is trained as an engineer and reborn as a public artist. He finds salvation in parks, playgrounds, and science museums, and you'll likely find him tinkering and teaching in various makerspaces around the East Coast. And Patrick Sells is the founder and owner of Salvaging Creativity and the co-founder of Working Class, a shop space offering tools, equipment, education, and community to local makers. Pat's background is in structural design and engineering, but he was greatly influenced growing up in his grandfather's wood shop. So in 2007, he transformed an old Rust Belt factory in New York into Salvaging Creativity, where he started making industrial design elements with wood and steel. Pat made all of the Beaver Street public space amenities, trash cans, planters, benches, and coordinated the George Street public art installation through Downtown Inc. He is currently participating as a consultant for the engineering capstone class here at York College. So with that, I'll open it up to Bevan to give his presentation.
Thanks, Aaron. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
Hi.
Good. My name is Bevan Weissman, and as Aaron mentioned, I live in Philadelphia, but before then I lived in Boston. And so the stories I'm going to be telling you today relate to all those kinds of spaces and all of the maker spaces in both of those cities. But to just give you an idea of what I do and who I am, I'm co-founder of a company called New American Public Art, and in short, we make interactive public art. So the image you see behind you, this weird little crystalline kiosk that has lights in it, and even the lights that are in the archway behind it are part of an interactive installation that we did up in Boston. And basically, it works this way. In Boston, they've got a transit system with an RFID subway card, sort of like the SEPTA card that they keep promising is going to come to Philly, but we'll see about that. Where everyone has their little card they carry around them all the time. And in this project, you can swipe your card, which will be read by our technology in this kiosk for free, and it'll reward you with a story. A story that we've collected from interviews with various residents living around town who saw the neighborhood as it was 50 years ago. And we boiled these stories down into little 30-second chunks. And so when you tap your card, you get a little nugget of what life was like at a different time, in the same spot, but with a different environment. And then at night, that same card activates lights that are surrounded both on the kiosk and in the environment, as you see in the archway back there. So your card is now sort of not just a transit card anymore. It's an all-access pass to knowledge and culture and lights and changing your environment, which is a very empowering feeling when you do it. But a project like this doesn't just arise out of nowhere. It's pretty complicated. It has a lot of different moving parts. So would you mind hitting my next slide over there? As you might imagine, it involves a pretty healthy bit of electronics. And you might recognize a couple of Arduinos in there. That's a popular buzzword that I'm sure you'll be hearing around makerspaces and making. And next one. It has a big physical component. That weird orange crystalline kiosk was made out of steel. And the long and short of it is we needed a space to make what we make, right? We needed a place that we could do electronics, that has a clean area with soldering irons and analysis equipment that we could put everything together. We needed a dirty space, places that we could cut steel and weld and paint and put together our physical kiosk. And since a project like this was so complicated and contained so many different parts, well, we needed a pretty complex solution. So this steel that you see right here is being cut out on a CNC, which is computer-numerically controlled plasma cutter. If you want to hit the next one, please. And then, of course, once you make these things, as they're in progress, you need a place to keep them, right? As you're working on them, you don't want to take them home every day. That's a pain in the butt. So this is a little shot of our studio in a makerspace up in Somerville, Massachusetts, called Artisans Asylum. And this is one that I probably have most experience working in. This is Home Door Company. This is where we make everything. This is where we design everything. This is where we run our business out of. One more. Awesome. So here you see on the left, in the paint room, that's also in that same space, and then on the right, in finished form, installed in the environment. One more, please. So then you're left wondering, well, where do you do this kind of work? Where is that magical complex space that you can design electronics, that you have access to advanced software, that you can build and make a mess, and that you can keep it overnight? And the answer is a makerspace. And that's what it is to us. It's a place to run our business. It's a place to make things. There are a couple in Philly that I'm more recently associated with. One is the Philly Sculpture Gym, which is sort of a gym for artists and sculptors, and Next Fab Studio, which is a little more high-end automation equipment for engineers and designers. Now, with spaces like this, which is what we're going to talk about today, they operate on one principle, which is shared resources that are leveraged for the betterment of everybody. So just like you don't have a home gym, or maybe you do, but if you do, it's not as complex as the sports club down the street. The gym is something you pay a monthly membership to, and you access their equipment. Similarly, a makerspace is something that we pay a monthly membership to, and we access their equipment. But instead of working out, we've got computer-aided design software, we've got high-end electronics, and automation manufacturing technologies for people who want to make things. If you wouldn't mind switching over to the other presentation. Sure. Sorry, we've got a couple different streams blending into one. The Philadelphia Sculpture Gym is what I want to talk to you about specifically today in Philly, because it is a smaller makerspace that's really community-driven, and I'm going to show you some images of where it started and where it is today. So up in the top left there, you've got pretty much the space as it was when we entered it, and then it developed into a gallery, where we've shown the work of artists who work there. It developed into workshops, as you can see on the left, pretty empty, not much going on. And the same thing on the right as it's in development. Okay. And we started developing these into a metal shop, a wood shop. We have a jewelry studio now, basically all the things you need to make stuff. But the additional advantage is that with a makerspace, you're not just getting equipment, you're getting a community. And the community that you find are like-minded people who are into making things, who might have been doing so on their own, in their own studio, or might not have been doing it at all, because let's be honest, sometimes it's hard to find that space. So, what ends up happening is this beautiful incubation effect, which I'm sure you've heard of for different startup businesses. You get different people in the same room talking to each other, and weird things start to happen. The same is true of this. It's sort of an economic jumpstart. That's how our company got founded. We didn't know each other before we all went to the same makerspace, saw that we were each doing cool things, decided to collaborate, and then eventually decided to form a company together. So it's an economic driver. It's a place that artisans can work to explore their craft, to learn new things, and to practice their business. So in the long and short of it, that's what I do. That's what makerspaces are good for. A community resource, a resource for artists, and then ideally, in a perfect world, something that gives back to the very community that they're supporting. So I think with that, it might be a good transition to talk about what Pat's going to tell you.
That was very well said. So Aaron and I have come together. Sure. Aaron and I have come together running our own businesses, and we've wanted to teach, and we've wanted to have a community and incubate businesses in our area. So on the platform of Rudy Art Glass, Bevan was talking about, we want to create this makerspace gym model here in York City. We're located at the corner of George Street and Philadelphia Street. Over the years, Rudy Art Glass has purchased all of the buildings in this block that you see. It was the old newspaper building, the York Dispatch. It's an industrial building and full of equipment, existing equipment from Rudy Art Glass. So shop space, community, and access and knowledge around the equipment made available. I was saying, communities across the country and internationally have understood there was a need for this type of space, for this type of collaboration as businesses start to partner. And if you travel to larger New York City, Philadelphia, LA, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, there are some fairly well established and growing maker spaces. And the makers, artists, small business owners, and entrepreneurs need these resources here in York to grow and produce good things for the world. So within Rudy Art Glass, Steve Mitchell years ago started to collect experienced makers and artisans who could collaborate with the glass products that Rudy fabricates. So today we have 9 artisans who work in varied materials with differing backgrounds, skill sets, and experience, and we collaborate with Rudy and in small clustered groups to produce projects, whether it's the public streetscape works that you see here in downtown York, or projects when we work with architects and designers. So this space is in existence. We are looking to start in this fall in a wing of Rudy Art Glass, which gives us about 11,000 square feet. And a lot of the tooling, the power, the air compressors, software are there in existence. We need to reconfigure the space, organize it, clean it up, and put in some fresh lighting. And start. Just some of the equipment and knowledge that we bring as a collective with the partnership of Rudy Art Glass. We have printing. We have a large flatbed printer, roll printer, CNC cutting capabilities, a water jet machine, milling machine, lathe. We're going to put together a wood shop as well to all of the glass equipment and the metal fabrication equipment that is already in the space. So the way we envision this working in York City as it's a foundation for collaboration. Here you have the space, the tools, knowledge, and people, and then we open that up. We'd love to work with York College. We'd love to work with local public schools, workforce education, hobbyists, and have that space and tools and insurance and a retail space so other people can bring their knowledge in to teach a class, share that knowledge, and then also earn some income for themselves. Just an example of a direction where we're looking to go, and something that we've been doing currently is around the public space amenities or not, to teach on a problem-based learning model and incorporate design thinking in a process working with a business to develop a real product and get it out into the world, but also working with just a community-based problem where we can bring a group of people together, teach them around a need, end with the built product, and then reflect on how that product serves the community or doesn't, and iterate. So that starting from that pilot at 11,000 square feet, we'd like to, we're pushing towards this dream vision. We have 50,000 square feet, a 4-story building, large manufacturing space under crane. We'd like to see that corner just diagonally across from the Strand become a real center. Retail space for local makers in the community, education space, business mentorship, and I'd like to see a cafe and some other gathering areas just so the general public can engage and have a way to get into the space and start to see how they might be a part of it or just enjoy being around it and seeing what comes out. So questions for you to consider, what would you do there?